Hello and good morning. Welcome to the 12 Days of Christmas. My name is Roger, founder and CEO of TriVision Global and creator of the Entrepreneur's Pit Stop, working in conjunction with Dr. Peck of Empower 2000. It gives me great pleasure and an honor to introduce to you today Don Purdum. Don is the owner and founder of Unveil the Web. He's an avid blogger, video creator, and author. He's also an enlisted veteran of the United States Navy and a chaplain in the Pennsylvania Army National Guard. He recently wrote a book called The Shift. It's the fast-paced transition from mass marketing to content marketing and how to resonate and inspire those who already buy from you. And today, Don is going to share with us 7 content strategies. So Don, it's a pleasure to have you this morning.
Hey, Roger, it's awesome to be with you. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, it's a joy, and I'm so excited to have you here, and it's been a pleasure working with you over this last year here, and so you've got some great wisdom to share with us, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say. I know people are looking here at 2015 as they wind down, and they're starting to set their sights on 2016. And as we were getting set up this morning, you talked a little bit about how people jump straight into strategy, and they go about the process of wanting to, build and grow their business, and oftentimes even their life, since they're kind of correlated. And you mentioned kind of about how it's the wrong approach. So, share with us your wisdom this morning.
Well, thanks. That's wisdom of 10 years of great pain and suffering. So I guess wisdom doesn't come from nowhere, does it?
Yeah, no, that's true.
The root of this is for many business owners, especially startups or those businesses that are starting to realize that the way marketing is changing is really having a pretty profound effect on their business. I mean, it used to be that you could just throw money at advertising. You could just throw money at search engine optimization. Both, there's all these strategies online and offline, and this would work. But the world as we know it is evolving rapidly. It's changing rapidly. The whole concept of just being able to create organic content by itself and hoping people will buy from me is changing rapidly. So that means we have to adapt ourselves. And part of this process that I'm going to talk about today deals more with your message than it does strategies, because most of us just do not do a very good job of taking the time to figure out what business we're really in. How does the world see us? And the reason why I say that is because there are several studies that have come out recently. One is was done by IBM just back in October of this year in 2015. And one of the things that came out of that was 90% of marketers felt they do an exceptional job of talking well with their prospects and enticing people or getting people a reason to come in and buy from them. But on the flip side of that, nearly 6,000 people were interviewed, and out of those 6,000, 80% of consumers said that they felt businesses did not identify with them at all, and that they felt no compelling reason to even stay on their websites. And then there's some other studies that have come out in 2012. It's a little older study, but the applications there, that Google in one of their landmark reports came out and said that it on average took 10.4 pieces of content before somebody was willing and ready to make some type of an engagement. We're not even talking about buying yet. We're talking about an engagement.
Right.
So I think the problem we're having is that we're not creating content that's inspiring, compelling, relevant, or interesting to the people that we want to engage with, that we want to buy from us, that we want to ask them to spend their hard-earned money, that they have fewer and fewer dollars of their own to spend in this economy, and we're just throwing fluff out there hoping something sticks to the wall, and it's not. The game's changing, Roger.
Right. Yeah, and you mentioned a little bit about that too in your book, The Shift. And I know when we were talking previously, you even talked about how technology is changing things. And it's funny, a friend of mine has a quote that says, "Adapt and overcome." So you've got five key content marketing strategies that you were going to share today on how to do that. But unpack that for us.
Well, I think that the number one thing that we have to do is we have to identify the passions we have to identify the problems that we're passionate about solving. Now, Many businesses solve multiple problems, but we don't really key into what are the reasons that I started my business. This is the one thing that I get to be a little bit introspective about, and I get to think about me, because I'm absolutely convinced in 10 years of owning a high-end web development company and working with hundreds and hundreds of clients, that the number one thing that people that are your prospects find compelling or interesting about you is how they identify with your own passion. Because if your passion's matching up with their problem or their need or their desire, there's an attraction that's drawn there. And it inherently starts with me. So it may be that I solve 10 problems or meet 10 needs or fulfill 10 desires, but I only have one or two things that I'm really passionate about making a difference in the world. And we really have to clue into that individually as business owners and entrepreneurs, what those passions are, because that ultimately is what makes me different from my competition. That ultimately is what people identify with. So that's the first thing that we work through with our clients, is helping them understand what is it that you're really passionate about, because most of us don't know. We kind of have it sitting under the surface, but it never completely bubbles up to the point that I can articulate it.
Right. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. We're created, right, with passions, so those passions need to be directed in the proper direction. So,
well, yeah, and if I have 5 people that I'm a competitor, and I have 5 different competitors, and we all do the same thing, what makes us different?
Right. Sort of your unique selling proposition at that point, right, or position.
Well, it's rooted in your passion. And it's rooted in the problems that you want to solve. And I think that's the distinguishing difference, is when I really get down into that level of depthness of my own personality, of who I am. I mean, most of us don't just start businesses exclusively for the sake of making money. I mean, there's a truth in that. I mean, we want to make money. We want to make a lot of money. We should make a lot of money. But there has to be something a little bit more meaningful, because when adversity hits and when the trials hit and the struggles hit, what keeps pushing you on? It's got to be that inner belief in the problems that you're passionate about solving, that you just know and believe that what you're doing is important. And helping the audience identify and understand that. So I don't want to just write about any old mumbo jumbo that doesn't make me different from anybody else. If I'm just creating bland generic content that's disconnected from my passion, then it just comes off that way. And people sense it, they feel it, they know it. So that's the first thing. The second thing is then we have to define what are the tangible values that people experience through my business, and how do they feel about that experience? This is where I have to think about my customers with the end in mind. And this is where I have to think about my business, not just what I'm selling, but the whole process from the point that I originate a contact to the point that they buy from me and experience me. And it doesn't matter if you're in an industrial manufacturing, if you're a service-based industry, if you're retail, if you're a service industry based business. This principle is the same all the way throughout. So I want to know, what did they experience and how did they feel about that experience, because that tells me a lot about how to message myself. And I'm reverse engineering this, and you're going to see this in just a second. So when I know the tangible value that I provide, that's the second thing. The third thing I want to know is, what problems do I specifically solve through each individual tangible value? Right? When and I mean really, really specific here. Part of the problem that we're having in marketing today is we're staying so broad, nobody identifies with us. I had a speaking coach for 6 years. And one of the things that my speaker coach used to say to me is, Don, you are being way too broad. Get specific. And what I noticed started to happen was my audiences, when I spoke, started turning into, nobody talked to me after a presentation other than to give me a pat on the back and say how great they thought it was. And whether that's true or not, or it's just a pleasantry, who knows. But when you've got 20% of the room coming up to you saying, how did you know? How did you're looking for some kind of clue, is how did you know that's what I was experiencing? How did you know that's what I was feeling? How did you know that's what I was going through? Right. Yeah, it makes them really You're
identify.
starting to connect over a very specific thing, and that specificity is the game changer.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I know the problems that I solve very specifically, now I have to identify who am I specifically solving them for.
Right, right.
Now you can start with a broad outline of who these folks are, but you have to get really specific. I've got one client, she has 88-page documents she created out of a one-page template.
Wow.
88, isn't that huge?
Yeah.
She was getting so specific, like a single mom who has been out of the workforce for 4 years and is ready to jump back in. Or a female college student who just graduated and has decided that she's going to start her first business. Or it could be a divorced mother of 3 who has no income and doesn't want to rely on the government and the welfare system to provide for her and her family.
Right, that's really targeted. That's great.
It's highly targeted. When I can take a highly targeted person with a highly targeted problem and write to that, holy cow, I'm creating something special.
Yeah, real
right?
personal.
That is really a very personalized, special message. And then the fourth part of this is, once I know those, how are my products or services a part of a solution? See, the problem is, as business owners and entrepreneurs, we tend to think that we are the answer, or our product or service is the answer. And as much as we might believe that's true, it simply is not until someone gives us money. We are just a solution. We are not the solution. We don't become the solution until we earn that. For that person. Right. And how do we earn it? Now think about what I just said. I reverse engineered it. Most of us start with just assumptions. Well, I want to talk to somebody who's in their 40 to 50-year-old range, who maybe has this life stage and is doing this. Well, then what do I write for them? Well, I don't know, but I just know who that is, and I just start writing generic stuff, and then I wonder why 6 months into it, none of my content's working. My blog's not working. My social media is not working. My videos don't work. No one listens to the podcast. We stay so broad, trying to attract all these massive numbers of people that we forget that business isn't grown in the masses. It's grown in the details.
That's a critical one, yeah.
So, and the fifth component of that is then learning cohesively what your message really is by understanding what business you're really in. And another way of asking that question is, you know, we always love it when you sit at when you're in the airplane and someone sits down to you, or you're at a networking event, what's the first question someone asks?
What do you do?
What do you do? Now, do they really care?
It depends, right?
It depends, but generally probably not. It's a conversation starter.
Sure.
They really don't care, because ultimately we all know that question set us up to be sold. So
never thought of it that way, I guess. Yeah.
It's true. So subconsciously, all we're really doing is we're just throwing out a pleasantry. So, but if I could come back with a quick, concise statement that has nothing to do with me, and I've said nothing about what I do or what I sell, but it relates directly to them in some way, that's a game changer. I've got their attention. And it's the same thing online, it's the same thing offline, it's the same thing through a blog article, through a video, or if you go one-on-one in a networking event. The principles to this are all the same. We have to figure out how to be relevant to the people that we're trying to attract. So that's the 5-step process right there, Roger, of how do we take them through that. Now, you've got 2 more ideas I think you want to throw into this, right?
Yeah, you know, going back to point number 5 when you're talking about, you know, getting specific, and it's interesting, you know, why do you think that people are afraid to narrow down? You know, is it that they're fearful of being rejected, or are they trying to reach too many people? I mean, you know, what do you think the reason is that they don't want to narrow down and find the specific people that they help?
Well, I think there's a couple reasons. Reason number 1 is because we're not trained to think at that depth. Of complex. It feels complex, it feels hard, it feels unnatural. And the reason for that is because we live in a mass marketing society. And we've been in a mass marketing society since the printing press first came out, however many hundreds of years ago. So we're trying so hard. We believe that, you remember the old adage, if you used to do cold calling or anything like that, that it's a numbers game?
Sure, certainly.
And we've all been taught this over and over and over again. But this is where marketing has changed, and this is where the evolution of it's at, is it's no longer just a numbers game, it's a relevancy/competency game. But to do it, it's really hard work because it forces you to think.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
Which most people haven't learned to do, right?
Yeah, it's not a natural gift, Roger. It just is not a natural thing because we have been conditioned through watching TV and listening to radio and looking in magazines and newspapers and online. We've been conditioned for 10 years with banner ads and generic social media. I mean, we're just conditioned to think big picture.
Certainly, you're right.
And I think that's the root problem is when we start talking about going into detail, we don't really know how to do it. It feels unnatural. It's uncomfortable, and it's hard work. So it's easy just to stay away from it.
Right. Well, what do you think is the best way to overcome that tendency and make it easy?
Well, I think it's like anything else. Number one, you have to have the right training. And you have to have the right mentors that know how to do that. And there's not a lot of them out there. Most people don't know how to get to that kind of specificity. So I think you have to find the right mentors and the right trainers, and then I think you have to spend your time learning because you got to craft this. This is a craft. And you've got to spend time learning your craft and building your craft. Look, you don't get to be a PhD, and the paper on the wall isn't the real credential, is it?
No, it's just a stepping stone.
The credential says there was a lot of time and effort put behind this to earn it, right? You had to master a craft and know it so well that you could get through the most rigorous of examinations to prove that you know what you're talking about. Well, how many of us in business know what we're talking about?
Right. Yeah, that's true.
We don't. We're winging it. And then we're wondering why it's not working. Look, we keep saying the economy's bad. We keep talking about 94 million people are out of work in the United States today. All true stuff, right? But bad excuses for businesses to grow and to make money, because even in spite of that, we have a lot of money sitting on the sidelines. And if you know how to message yourself to the right people, there's a lot of people out there who have money who are able, willing, and ready to spend it if your message is right for them. If you're relevant to them, if you're compelling for them, they're out there and they're ready and willing to spend their money. They've just got to be shown the way and the reason why they should. And the old days of just saying, here I am, give me money, it's over.
Well, we were talking about this before we got the show started, and I think this is relevant to making, the seventh point, if you will. Why do you feel that as a behavioral pattern, we choose this path instead of doing the right thing from the get-go? Why do you think we default to this approach to business?
Well, I think a lot of us grew up in the educational system, both in public and private school, of you learn broadly. Again, right? You take history, you don't learn a lot of history, you learn history broadly. Maybe the only detail I ever remember learning in school was math, and I didn't care about math, so I didn't even excel in it. But I think there are some issues subconsciously going on that when we get into business, not only have we been taught how to think broadly, we've also just been taught that, and we believe that if I just open a business, it's kind of like the Field of Dreams thing, they'll come. They will come, and they won't. And I don't think that most of us spend the time training and learning how to build a business and how to understand business and the psychology of business. And I think subconsciously, a lot of us are just sold a bag of goods that, hey, if you want to go do affiliate marketing, you can make money. If you want to just blog, you can make money. If you want to open a storefront, you can make money. And yet everywhere we go, we see businesses that storefronts are empty. A business opens, a year later it's gone. Why? A blog starts within 6 to 8 months. It's a desert. It's a ghost town. Haven't written on it in months. All of these things subconsciously that are going on in our minds are telling us that we have to have past success because we live in a McDonald's culture. Everything's McDonald-fied, right?
Right.
We got to have results, and we got to have it now. But I think business is getting back to a sense of normalcy in that the internet taught us for a short period of time that we could explode really quickly and grow businesses. And we failed to understand that the Facebooks and the Googles and the Twitters and the Ubers and all of these things are anomalies. These are not normal things. That most of us, our businesses have to be thought through before we launch, our message is developed, and we understand the 5 areas of business, meaning marketing, sales, production or delivery of a service, customer service, and administration.
Right.
And we have to think those 5 areas of business all the way through. And if we don't, if one area is weak, the business will ultimately collapse. But it all hinges on marketing, because if you're not bringing people into your sales funnel, and then if you're not closing sales, then all those other things don't matter.
Right, right. You know, it's almost interesting too, because it seems like with where we are today in the economic landscape, is that more and more people are just jumping into business out of desperation to generate revenue because they're struggling financially. And so it's sort of like being thrown into the pool if you've never swum before, right? You're flailing your arms, you're kicking, you're afraid of drowning, and then once you realize, hey, wait a minute, I'm not going under, now we can start to learn to swim laps. And it really sounds like what you're sharing here are the things that they need to grasp in the beginning to stop flailing and then begin swimming real effective laps in the marketplace.
Yeah, absolutely. See, your message is the foundation of your business. It sets the tone for everything. It helps you begin to understand your processes and your systems. Because again, if you're going to think about a tangible value in the end in mind through the customer experience, there had to be a process or system that guided them all the way through it.
Right.
And every business model. Now, some are a lot simpler than others. Some are more complex in their systems and processes. But with that said, you still have to have them. That includes, if you're retail, how do you get your items that you're selling from the manufacturers and distributors, and how do they get stocked in your store, and the presentation of that stocking. So there's a whole lot that goes into this. And I think that, like you said, 94 million people are out of work right now. A lot of them are going to be starting businesses in the next number of years because they don't have a choice. They're not going to find work. Right. And there are warning signs in the economy that they're not ever going to again. Artificial intelligence is becoming big. I mean, look, in Phoenix, Arizona, there's a McDonald's right now that's 100% automated in AI.
Wow, that's amazing.
100%, and it's the first test, and it's working flawlessly. Not one human being is in the store, I understand.
Wow. Wow.
This stuff in the next 5 and 10 years is going to take root across the country, because employers are not going to be held hostage by the demands of people wanting $15 an hour for an $8 an hour job.
Right, right.
So we have to understand societally there's a shift going on that the politicians are ignoring, that nobody's really talking about what's driving this economy right now, and it's technology. And we are going to have to figure out as we go through these transitions, and people can't find work. And by the way, folks, this is white collar too. This is not blue collar.
Right.
I mean, attorneys, insurance industry, the medical field. AI is completely about to take over the medical field. Robotics and surgeries are taking over. So it's going to be every industry across every sector over the next 5 to 15 years. So how are we going to compensate for that? I think you're going to see more and more people starting businesses, which means more and more people have to get their head around what their message is and the problems that they're passionate about solving, the tangible values, who they're specifically solving the problems for, and get out there and start building great businesses. That's going to be the catalyst in America that brings us back. I firmly believe that.
Yeah, no, and that's true, Don. That's really powerful. I mean, that's where people are going to have to go to. They've got to gravitate towards some way of generating revenue, because it is only going to get worse. And that's where the skills of entrepreneurship are going to come in, and that's why it's so critical that they learn the messages that you're sharing here. So if we think about now, we're transitioning from 2015 into 2016. You know, the people who are listening today, what's a thought or a tip you want to give to ensure that 2016 is even better and provides more hope for their future than 2015 did?
Well, my number one tip would be step back and start taking a look at who are you. Who is your business? What is your message? Your message is the driver of your business. Too many people are taking the strategies and putting the strategies ahead of that, and they're ignoring it at their own peril. And they're spending money on advertising on Facebook. They're doing things that cost money. They're hiring more content marketers or they're vendors, and you're losing a lot of money because they can only do what you've done for yourself. So my message today would be to you, figure out the message and understand what business that you're really in, because that's the game changer, folks. If you're not talking relevantly to the people that you're trying to attract, then you're not going to attract anyone, and the ones you do attract, your conversion rates are going to be extremely low. So the optimistic side is take the time to figure that out. And if you do, then 2016 is going to be posed to be a tremendous year for you because everything's floating in that direction. You're not going to be able to manipulate technology like we've been able to do for the last 15 years. Those days are coming to an end. And so the tighter you are around that message, the more specific you get, the better position in the marketplace you'll become.
Yeah, that's a good word. That's a good word, Don. So if they want to continue moving forward with you and dive deeper in this, how can they connect with you and take the next step? What would be their next step and the best place to connect with you?
I would encourage you to visit unveiltheweb.com. That's unveiltheweb.com. There's a huge amount of articles on my blog about this. There are a number of, I've probably got 75 videos right now that you can learn from, all 100% free. I've got a program. We're starting a free mastermind in 2015 for the first 3 months. If people join through the blog, my email newsletter, then you're going to get some more information about these free masterminds and how you can become a member in one. There's also going to be some other great tools like Unveil University that will be starting in January or early February, where there's going to be some fabulous specific training videos that will help you. And of course, for those that want to take the time to really delve in deep, there's the one-on-one opportunities with me as well. You can also follow me on any social media channel, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, Google+. I'm all over all of them, and you can feel free to connect with me there. But I would say that the big hub is probably through my website.
Okay. Well, appreciate it, Don. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to shoot these 12 days of Christmas for us, and want to wish you and your family a beautiful Merry Christmas and a wonderful Happy New Year, and we look forward to working with you here in 2016.
Well, I'm excited about it, Roger, and it's always been great chatting with you and watching you blossom and seeing the things that you're doing, and I wish you and your family a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year as well.
Thank you so much, Don. We'll see you in 2016.